Okie dokie. All right. Can you see me? Hello, people. After much ado, here we are. Okay. That was a struggle. I think I'm going to be buying a new laptop next week. Because, yeah, this is nonsense. So, how are we today? How's my lighting and my sound and everything? Okay, awesome. All right. Okay, so neurodivergent stimming. Me personally, I am autistic and dyslexic, and I have all of the DIS conditions, which is dyslexia, dyscalculia, that's issues with numbers, um, and how they go together, which also sometimes plays into fun with dysgraphia. Yeah, you should see some of my stuff that I don't use Grammarly on or autocorrect, even though I run afoul of autocorrect on the regular. But life without autocorrect, before autocorrect was a thing, that was yeah, that was fun and entertaining. And people often could not understand what I was trying to say because yeah, that was not good. Because a lot of my writing tends to come out inside out or backwards or like trying to spell the word the the, right? Yeah, when I try to type it, that becomes ETH, HTE, HET is one of my favorites. Yeah. So yeah, that's fun with dysgraphia. Or words will appear out of syntax in a sentence. So yeah, that's just not fun when you're trying to read, or you're trying to write something that you want people to understand. Yeah, I love Grammarly. It's my friend. It helps me make sense to other people. And then there's also the joyous fun of dyspraxia. That is a lot of people uh, that have Ehlers-Danlos. That's an extreme form of dyspraxia. But my thumbs can bend farther back than they should. If you can take your pinky and touch it down here, that's severe. That's extreme dyspraxia in your hands. That's your joints aren't quite held together as nicely as an average person's. And because of that, I've almost never I had never broken a bone before 2 or 3 years ago. Because anytime that I got into a situation where either the bone would break or the joint would give out because most people, their joints are kind of held together nice. And if it's a choice between the bone breaking or the joint failing, the bone will break. But if you're dyspraxic, your joints are kind of a little bit more loosey goosey, less well held together. So if you get into a situation where the bone's going to break or the joint's going to fail, your joint's just going to go. And that's mostly been my life. Of course, about 3 years ago, I got into a situation where being rubber rabbit was not something that was going to help me out. Because when you get into a situation where you're crushing bone on top of bone, the what how much your joint can move doesn't really matter. And so I managed to give myself a compression fracture of my T12 vertebrae. First bone I ever broke, only bone I've ever broken. If you want to see kind of an idea as to how that went down, I have a video showing a similar situation from last winter that my dogs caused. Um, I was not severely injured with that, and I've kind of made fun of the incident from last winter just because looking at it from somebody else's point of view, it is kind of funny. And so yeah, I laugh at it because I mean, what's the choice? Laugh at it or well, I didn't do it on purpose. I don't break things on purpose. It's like I didn't want to do that. That was not my point. That was not my goal. So yeah. Oh, now I understand how the starring works. Cool. We're learning new things this week. How to show and hide people's comments. Um, when I when I got the compression fracture, that was 2 or 3 years ago. I'm 45 now, so I was like 42. Um, and I have a wonderful thing to remember that by. I call it it's either my fabulous fashion accessory or the contraption, depending on my mood. Um, it's all leather and very steampunk. It's a spinal brace, and yeah, that thing costs $300, and yeah, I find ways to use it. I still use it occasionally when my back is being really achy. I'll just use it to give myself some extra support because I do have some weakness in my lower spine still because of the injury to my lower back from what caused my nerve damage, um, and caused my need for my service dog Jane and all of that good stuff. But yeah, that's the fun of dyspraxia. But what we're here to talk about tonight is neurodivergent stimming. Now, everybody, every single person on this planet stims up to a point. What makes a difference between the average neurotypical person stimming and the neurodivergent we stim? Uh, a neurodivergent person will probably stim a little bit, twiddle their thumbs, play with their hair, get a pen and click it. Those are typical ways that somebody that's just a neurotypical person I'm anxious or I'm bored. That's what they'll do to STEM. And oh, hi babe. Thanks for joining us. I finally got my laptop to cooperate so I could go live. uh, but yeah, that's how average neurotypical person would STEM. Now, neurodivergent people, especially autistics, we take stimming to a fine art because we stim literally almost all the time. You can ask my lovely spouse. Well, thanks, babe. I appreciate that. Um, you can ask my wonderful, handsome spouse the how much I stim and how much he stims. Oh, hide thing there. um, because he'll tell you I stim literally almost all of the time. I almost never stop. I'm always doing something, fidgeting with my hands, rocking back and forth or front to back, and sometimes I'll do this business while I'm stemming, and or I'll be doing this and messing with my hair. Um, it just depends on what's going on at that moment, what I'm needing to process, because it's we stem um, to process information. We stem to get rid of whatever is too much. If we're anxious, we'll stem even more. If we're bored, we'll stem 2 to 3 times as much as someone who's neurotypical. We will like, and also talking about it makes me do it more. But well, I'm sorry, Molly. Molly was sleeping and I woke her up. I am a horrible mama, apparently. Oh well, she will live. She will be offended, but she will live. But and actually, one of my most common stems, our friend, the crochet project. It's like, and every part of this is a stem for me, from winding the balls to, and I don't know if you've ever, any of you guys crochet, but this is how I do yarn ball management so it doesn't come unraveled on me when I've got it in my backpack or whatever. I just grab a sock and use it as a yarn sleeve. And this is what I do as a primary stem. It is, I take it everywhere with me. I can't always crack it out and dig into it, but I've got all kinds of objects that I take with me to stem. Um, I mean, even my inhaler becomes a stem toy sometimes because I'll pop things off and on, take it out. It's like I will fidget with this thing nonstop if I don't have anything else. Uh, but yeah, we're great at coming up with things to stem with. We're great at finding different ways to stem with things that are meant to be stemmed with. Um, and what stemming, it's short for self-stimulatory behavior. It's basically self-soothing. Um, and I mean, I can even stem with the box. I mean, there's so many different ways I can mess with that. And I mean, I stem with pill bottles, just pretty much anything that comes to hand. Ah, everybody's friend, Mr. Inkpen. So I sit here and do this. All right, babe. You do what you got to do. Take care of that kiddo that's struggling. She's definitely gonna need some help, but you guys are behind her, and that's very important. I'll see you next time. Ah, um, have you tried finding different ways to release that anxiety, like in the moment? Like finding something to fidget with, because it's amazing how much it helps. Like, since I discovered that I was on the autism spectrum and started allowing myself to stem more and stopped hiding it and stopped masking it as something other than what it is. It's like I will now stand in Walmart, stand in the grocery store, And I mean, I've got a stim that I do when I'm standing where I just make a more exaggerated rocking back and forth, where I'm rocking from foot to foot, especially when I'm trying to come to a decision about something. Like, I mean, just simple things can drive me to stim. Um, like, okay, I want to get a different kind of bread, or I want to get a specialty bread, and I can't decide what it is that I want. And so um, I will go into that stem. I'll just start rocking back and forth, and the longer it takes me to figure it out, the more I'll rock, and the bigger I'll rock, and and sometimes it'll get to the point where I'm just all the way over here, all the way over here, as far as I can go without falling over. And I've had people notice it, and I've gotten to the point where I don't care. Yeah, if that helps you relieve your anxiety and that helps bleed that out, then yeah, that's stimming. Uh, it's just whatever it is that helps you pull that anxiety level down or helps you process whatever is going on around you better. It's like sometimes it's just a matter of finding a thing and finding something that works. I mean, other things that I stim with, yes, I am big time nerd, but yeah, I'll fiddle with this guy and just change his position, change the way his legs are, play with his equipment that he's got. And I mean, actually I think that's a lot of the reason why most neurodivergent people are kind of nerdy, and why we're so into things like action figures, because you can fiddle with them and you can find different ways to make them move or different ways to make them stand and work on trying to get them to stand up properly and stuff like that. And sometimes you don't even realize that you're stemming when you're doing it. It's like if I wasn't on camera right now, I wouldn't realize that I am rocking. And um, it's just a thing that helps you get through life. And the thing that does not help a neurodivergent person is, especially if they're in a situation where they're experiencing the too much and they're doing the stuff to try to bleed it off, and then somebody that doesn't understand comes up and you're being embarrassing, you're being embarrassing, you need to stop that, you're drawing attention to us, that, and then tries to make them stop or does make them stop. Okay, well, that stops their ability to draw that energy down and bleed it off and make it so that they're not going to go into a meltdown. And a lot of the reason why we stem is to avoid these neurodivergent sensory overload meltdowns. And here's the big thing about meltdowns: you cannot stop a meltdown once it starts. You cannot distract the person from the meltdown once it starts. It can a lot of times look a lot like a temper tantrum. The big difference, and this is in in children as well as in adults, it does not matter. Um, if you are having a meltdown, you cannot be distracted. It has to play itself out. It has to just do its thing. And then it will stop on its own once that excess energy gets bled out. Now, a temper tantrum, you can redirect that. You can distract that child or that adult that is having a temper tantrum. And I've seen adults have a temper tantrums. I I've worked in the public. I've worked retail. And I have freaking seen adults have a meltdown. I've seen meltdowns and I've seen temper tantrums. Temper tantrum, you can distract that person. You can give them what they want and they will stop. And they will go away and they will stop the behavior. If you try to give that person that's having a full-on legitimate meltdown what they want, it won't stop it. It won't distract them. And in fact, it may actually make them worse. And I mean, I've had that happen to me, and it's happened with my husband where we're in a meltdown, and it's clear when we're in a meltdown. And just sometimes you just have to leave that person alone and let that play out and let them work it out on their own. Just have them in a safe space where they can't hurt themselves, where they can't hurt somebody else, and just put them in that place and just let that happen because that's the only thing that's going to fix that and that's the only thing that's going to make that better is just to let that bleed out. And then you have times where sometimes there are things that will help you break out of it. Sometimes if I'm in the right state and my husband's learned to tell what the quote unquote right state is, um, sometimes giving me something that I can use to distract myself with, it's not him distracting me, it's him providing me with the opportunity to distract myself. Uh, he's figured out when he can do that and when it's not going to make it worse. And pardon me, my cat is being distracting. She found a yarn ball on the floor and she's now about to string it through the house because cats are fun. Um, and he's just learned when to do these things. And sometimes it's big, a firm hug. With me, light touches are a no go. You don't do light touches with me because light touches can actually set me off. It's got to be firm contact. Um, and that that goes partly into my damage because there's almost no neurodivergent person on this planet that doesn't have some form of damage from growing up, well, mostly undiagnosed neurodivergence, that that don't have some level of damage from that. Because if you're not diagnosed, it's hard to, well, people just assume if you're autistic and you're undiagnosed autistic, that you're lazy or you're just stupid or you don't care or that you're just being dramatic. And well, if you don't know better, you can't take it to a different place. It's just as a child, you're assumed that you're just being a naughty kid. And with neurodivergent children, because we process things completely differently from the average person. It's our senses are different. Our the way that we process incoming information is different. The way that we what we see sometimes is different. Like with it's called oh come on brain pardon me, processing issues with my brain. Um, sensory processing disorder. I have issues processing language, so and that also plays into my dyslexia. But I experience sensory processing disorder. It's a condition that tends to go hand in hand with autism, and it can go hand in hand with dyslexia, also ADHD. I don't know how it plays into OCD all that much because I don't know that many people that have OCD and it's paired with other neurodivergent issues. So I can't speak on that. But what neuroprocessing disorder um, is your senses can either be dialed. Think of it like volume control on um, your vehicle stereo. You can either have it dialed all the way up, or with some people, it can be dialed all the way down to where it doesn't exist. Like my client, it seems like he can't tell us because he's nonverbal, but it seems like he has almost no reaction to pain. Like he really doesn't feel it unless it's an extreme pain. He also doesn't seem like he's very sensitive to the cold. Uh, he is he does show signs that he's he can be sensitive to overheating. He shows us signs of that, but he doesn't really care whether he's cold or not. And he doesn't really shiver that much either. Uh, at least not in reaction to being cold. Whereas my sense of touch is dialed way up. I can crochet without looking at what I'm doing. My husband sees me do it all of the time. He he's very much one of those. He he he's impressed by it. I can crochet in the dark because I don't have to see what I'm doing because my sense of touch is that sensitive. Sense of hearing also way up. I can hear things that nobody else around me can hear. I'm sitting in the front bedroom, my boys' bedroom, and I could hear something that was going on at the complete opposite end of the house. And I mean, I can just my senses are my sense of hearing is just that dialed up. And my vision is the same way. I really hate HD TVs because that looks freaking fake to me. It looks completely fake to me because I see in high def anyway. So since I already see in high def, having a high def television that is amplifying what I would already normally be seeing, it just looks so damn fake, and I hate it, and it just looks weird. And I mean, I can see details that other people would miss. Like, I was testing my blood sugar earlier. Uh, like things about this pill bottle that other people would miss. Whoop. Of course, my coordination is super trash. Uh, okay, I don't know how that happened. Uh, but yeah, there are aspects of this pill bottle that I can see that most people would not catch, like fine details of how this works. I mean, even fine details of the used test strips within. Um, and that's part of the reason why my art is as detailed as it is, because if I don't make it as uh, as detailed as I can to me, and it doesn't look right. And if it doesn't look right, it bothers me. But that's also part of the reason why I will deliberately incorporate errors into things, or if I make an error, I most of the time won't go back and fix it because um, to most people would not notice that. I notice it because I'm hyper aware of it. But my husband, my mom, my sisters, they wouldn't notice that. So a lot of the time I will either put in things on purpose that are errors, or I will, if I see an error, I'll just leave it. I It's taken me a long time to learn to do that and learn to allow things like that. But it just has, once I started doing that, my anxiety level came way, 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 way down. Um, just because I stopped putting pressure on myself for things that most other people wouldn't give a damn about. Um, and I mean, apparently one of my cats is in the kitchen stimming. I don't know if you can hear her. She's in there rattling a paper bag. I think Molly is trying to attract my attention. She's like, "Mommy, quit talking to the computer. Come play with me." She's my baby. Her and the doodle cat, they were bottle babies. We got them when they were 3 weeks old. Oh yeah, learning how to allow errors to pass through when I'm hyper aware of them. That took a lot of teaching myself that that's okay. It's okay. Nobody else is going to care. It's okay. Because I mean, it just got to the point where I wasn't completing things because it wasn't right and it looked weird and it didn't look right, and oh my gosh. And then I had my husband and I go to powwows regularly, and I had an artist at one of the powwows. I was looking at his jewelry, and he told me that he intentionally added flaws into his work because, well, his reasoning was only God is allowed to make things that are perfect. So anything that man makes is inherently imperfect. And I walked away from that interaction, and I thought about it. I really thought about it. And I was like, well, like, yeah, he's kind of right. Because I mean, us seeking perfection, it's not going to happen because we are fallible creatures, and what we make is not ever going to be 1,000% perfect. It's just there's no way. It's not going to happen. And so trying to make it happen is just an exercise in frustration. What is it that they say? Repeating something over and over again, expecting a different outcome is the definition of insanity. And I mean, that's right. You're not going to get a different outcome if you're doing something the same way over and over again. And yeah, this is really common. My mom made me get tested for ADHD because she said I'd start a million projects and never complete one. Yeah, that's very common for people that are ADHD. And I will always say, as far as neurodivergent conditions are concerned, that you are that versus you're with that, that you are someone with that, because that it just the different verbiage implies that if you're with that, okay, so I'm carrying it around in a satchel with me and I can just put it down and walk away from it. No, if you're living with one of these chronic neurodivergent conditions and then come back and get it later. No, it's there. It's going to be there. And so you are that. And so yeah, I will always use that verbiage that you are ADHD. I am autistic. I am dyslexic. My older sister is just um, she is Aspie regular, and I am Aspie with a side of dyslexia. My younger sister, though she does not identify as being autistic, especially Asperger's, and come for me that I'm identifying as Asperger's. I don't care. I know that the dude that discovered this particular branch of autism, I know what he was. I understand why people are uh, not happy with the term, but it is uh, outside of the US, it still is a diagnostic term in the DSM. It is still a diagnostic term. The reason why Dan from the Aspie world still identifies as an Aspie is that is what is on his paperwork as what he was diagnosed as. He still identifies as an Aspie because that is his actual diagnosis. And yeah, I identify as an Aspie. And you can come for me if you want to. I will delete your comments left and right because this is how I identify. I have had people all of my life tell me what I was and what I was allowed to be. I get to identify the way I choose to. And I choose to identify as someone who is Asperger's. I choose to identify as an Aspie. And anybody that has a problem with that, you can get you can go away off my channel and you can get your comments deleted because yeah, I'm not getting that from people on my channel. I will absolutely 2000% delete those comments. Uh, and that's just the way it is. But yeah, a lot of people who are ADHD are like that. They will start a project and get distracted by something that's new and different and more interesting. And they'll have like 1,000 projects going all at the same time because they just don't. Uh, I really, really hate the way that it's set up in the DSM, where it's attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. No, you don't have an attention deficit because when you're look when you're doing something that you are interested in, you are 2000% focused on that thing until it gets boring. You don't have an attention deficit. You have from what I've learned and from what I've found in my research to better understand how my husband's brain works. Um, you're actually hypersensitive to boredom. When something gets boredom, click, done, off, doing something else now because looking for something that's more interesting. Tell me if that is correct for you. It's also why watching TV with someone who is ADHD can be really frustrating because as soon as a show gets boring, they're gone. They're watching something else, and they're channel surfing. I mean, even on Netflix and YouTube and Hulu, they're channel surfing. As soon as the video they're watching gets boring, gone. They're looking for the next hit a dopamine. The it's dopamining when they're doing that. They are seeking that dopamine hit. Yeah. Well, that also goes into the fact that most people on uh that are neurodivergent, we tend to have really trash working memory and really trash short-term memory. So if we get distracted from a thing, yeah, we're unlikely to go back to it unless we see it and it pulls us back in. If a commercial comes on, I am done. Yes. That's why we have YouTube Premium, because neither me nor my husband can tolerate commercials. It's like if we can't fast forward through them and we can't like skip them and we're forced to watch them, we can't. We just it's no. We That's also why if it's a new show, we will record it live and then we will watch it on playback where we can fast forward through the commercials because we cannot do commercials. We can't because my husband, his attention span is just like that and gone. And even if it's something that he's really, really into, if it takes too long for the show to get back to it, he just nope. And I am somewhat the same way, but I'm a little bit more patient. Um, I'm just slightly more patient with that kind of thing than he is, but also my neurodivergence is different. Hmm. Yep. Channel surfing. I bet you channel surf a lot on pretty much every different type of service that you follow, whether it's YouTube or Netflix or whatever, uh, because it's that sensitivity to boredom that it just hits. I mean, if it's something that you're into, you will watch that, do that all day long as much as possible until it becomes boring. And then once it gets boring, then you're done. You're over it. Not going back. And that's also what makes housework difficult for an ADHDer. Um, because if you don't find a way to make it interesting, you're not going to stick with it. Or you're going to have trouble finding a place to start, or well, that's very common. Yeah, with Hulu, we've got no commercials, plus the option to have stuff from live TV and stuff like that. But if it's from live TV, we will let it record, and then we'll just let it DVR itself, and then we'll go through where we can just uh, fast forward through the commercials because yeah, commercials are just no, they're a no go. And one thing that's really obnoxious is Facebook. You can't like opt out of the commercials. They don't let you, and it's just no. And my husband, he complains about it so much because it drives him insane. And I'm like, hey, babe, I hear you. I understand. I don't like him either. Well, hey, if that's what you've got to do to keep vacuuming and keeping the carpets clean and whatever, if that's what you got to do to keep it interesting, more power to you, babe. I mean, one of the things that my husband struggles with is he goes into that shutdown mode where he's decision fatigue because he can't figure out a place to start. And that's one of the things that we're currently working on, is helping him figure out a place to start, so that he's like, okay, I've got this place to start. This is where I'm going to start. And I mean, even if he only does the one thing, that's okay. Sorry, I'm itchy. I probably need to take some Benadryl. Um, but even if he only does that one thing, like doing dishes, if he only washes the silverware and starts with the spoons, okay, that that's it got done. But a lot of times, if you're okay, I'm going to start with the silverware, I'm going to start with the spoons. Once you've done all the spoons, it's like it kicks you into action. And so that inertia and that initial decision pro- problem, that's been knocked off. And so you can just, okay, I've done the spoons, what can I do next? Okay, forks. Okay, knives. Okay, sharp knives. Oh, okay, I've done all the silverware. Okay, bowls, little bowls, then big bowls, then serving bowls, then plates and different kinds of plates. And oh, wait, we're down to the pots and pans. And then, I mean, once you get yourself started, a lot of the time, the inertia will keep you going. But yeah, that's also a common problem. It's like I've watched a lot of stuff on ADHD, trying to figure it out and trying to understand how it works, because my brain does not work like that. So I have to find a way to understand how that works. And on a lot of the stuff that I've seen, uh, this is very common. If I bring something to the bedroom, I find something else that has to be done, and then I try to start that, and that I derail there, and I start doing that thing. And that's why you have a lot of ADHDers apparently tend to have this very disorganized looking house, even though they're trying their best to to get things right, to make things look proper and the way that they want it to. One of the best pieces of advice I've seen with this is bins. When you're, let's say you're cleaning the living room. Okay, you've got, get yourself a series of bins. Uh, one for the bedroom, one for the bathroom, one for the kitchen, one for your kids' room. What, however many rooms you've got in your house, have a bin for each room. And then if you find something that does not belong in the room that you're in, um, you put it in the bin for the room that it goes in. And then you do that until you're done cleaning the room you're in. And then what you do next, if you still have time for cleaning or you still have that impulse to clean, what you do next is you grab one of the bins that does not belong in that room that you were in, living room. Okay, we've got we've got our kitchen bin, we've got our bedroom bins, we've got our bathroom bins. Pick one of those bins and go work on that room next. And just do that as you go from room to room to room, and that will keep you on task, and that will keep you from this never ending cleaning cycle where you're always getting distracted. Oh, I need to go do this, or I need to go put that away too, so that you can actually achieve organizing like you want to, like you're trying to, like you think it needs to be. And I mean, you got to give yourself grace and space with that too. because I mean, we're not perfect people. Nobody's perfect, not even the neurotypicals out there among us. Nobody is perfect, and nobody has the absolute perfect house all of the time. Oh, that's wonderful. I'm so glad that I could help you out with that. That is exactly why I decided to start doing this. I talked with my therapist for months about this, and I was just trying to figure out the best way to go about it. And even if you're the only person I help this week or this month, that absolutely makes my day. That I was able to help you find a way to improve your life. That is absolutely awesome. But that I mean, being autistic, I love research. I love to research things. I so enjoy it. It fills up my cup in a way nothing else does. It's like, okay, I got this urge to research something. What should I research today? And a lot of times it tends to be stuff involving neurodivergence because, well, it's so misunderstood. It's like I back when I was still very sensitive to it, and I stopped ignoring people's reactions to when I stemmed, and if I was doing something that was an overt stem, uh, and people would start staring at me, especially if it was a really weird stem that was like super obvious, and people just they well, if it's something that's hyper unusual and they're not used to being around neurodivergent people, they're gonna stop and stare at you. And I've learned to ignore that because stimming does things for me that I don't care what that other person that's in the Walmart or the grocery store or whatever, what they think of me stimming, because if I don't stem, I'm more likely to have a meltdown. Whereas if I do stem, I can process what's going on properly and I can get what I need to do done. And I can get through that, whatever it is that I'm doing. If I'm trying to decide, okay, I want to change brands of toothpaste, or I want to try this new thing. Uh, if stimming will get me through making that decision and what flavor of this thing to try, or what color I want, if stimming gets me through that, I'm going to do it. And I don't care anymore what John Q. Public that's standing next to me staring at me while I do it. I don't care what they think. It's like I am just going to do what I need to do to get through my day. And I've learned to not care because it's like what does that mean? What impact does what Freddie thinks over there? What's that going to have on my day? I mean, I'm never going to see them again. I live in Kansas City, for fuck's sake. Nobody is going to care. And I'm not likely to see that person ever again anyway. So why do I give a damn what they think? Oh, wait, I don't. Moving on. It's like, yeah, it improves my day and it improves my life, and fuck it. It's like life gets so much simpler when you stop caring what other people think. It's like if you don't care, what they think doesn't matter. If you don't value their opinion, what they think really that's no. Let's just get rid of that and ignore it because that doesn't matter. What matters is what does it do for you? Does it do something useful for you? Does it help you? If it helps you, keep doing it. If it doesn't help you, get rid of that and try something new. and keep looking for things, new things that do help you, that do work for you. And I mean, I've been helping my husband learn to stim. And yeah, this is a thing we need to learn because especially if we were undiagnosed as children and stimming was suppressed for us, so we didn't have the opportunity to do it naturally. And so now we're adults and we're like, okay, I am neurodivergent, which means, and a lot of people don't understand why I'm like so excited to share with people about the fact that I am autistic. A lot of people don't understand why I feel the need to tell people about it and share that with people. The reason I'm excited to tell you about it and share it with you is I spent 40 years feeling like a defective human being, thinking that I was less because I couldn't do it right. When I tried to do whatever it was the way that the people around me did it, and it didn't work. Every time I've tried to do something the way that the neurotypical people around me were doing things didn't work. And I would try and I would try and I would try and I would try, and it wouldn't work. And I spent 40 years doing this. I mean, I learned that I was dyslexic when I was 30 and went through the diagnostic process of that. And that was empowering because I learned that a lot of my issues with language, it was the way that my brain processes that. And a different way to look at dyslexia and the offshoots of it, dysgraphia, dyscalculia. Uh, Different way to look at that is the reason I have issues with the written word is writing text, pictures. That's all two dimensional. That's all flat. My brain works in three dimensions. When I imagine something, and I talked about this a little bit last week. Uh, when I imagine something, I see it in three dimensions. When I imagine my phone, I if I'm thinking about my phone in my mind's eye, I see it in three dimensions. When when I'm imagining a project that I want to do, my brain will create it in three dimensions. It's like my I can drive a video camera through my brain and see that thing on all sides. Whatever way I want to focus on it, that's how my brain will create it. And I don't think in words. I think in pictures and short movies. And that's part of the reason why sometimes my brain will freeze up and I can't articulate what I'm thinking about because I'm trying to take this three-dimensional picture or movie and turn it into words for you. And sometimes I can't do that, or sometimes I struggle to do that. And that's why. And it's taken me a lot of time. I mean, I was diagnosed when I was 30 with dyslexia. I am 45. It's taken me 15 years to get to this point where I understand why I struggle with language. why I struggle with these things. That's also why a lot of people that are in performing arts, that are directors, that are painters, uh, a lot of those that are very, very good at it are dyslexic because they see it in three dimensions here. And so they put it in three dimensions out there. Um, yeah, there. I don't know if you are familiar with Temple Grandin, Grandin. Um, but she has done a lot for the neurodivergent community. She says we need all kinds of minds. What I'm saying is how I process. There are people that process things that they think in words. They It's like you've got this inner dialogue in your brain. I don't have that. I have an inner movie. Some people do have that inner dialogue. Some people, they don't have anything. Uh, and I don't understand at all how those people process the universe. Molly, what are you doing? What? Do you want to snuggle with Mama? Come here, girly. Here, I'll move my stuff. Come here, babe. What? Oh, you want snuggles? You want snuggles? You're my little princess baby girl. Who's my little princess baby? Who has the kissable Pete's? Yeah, she got the kissable Pete's and the kissable tail. And she's a precious little baby. Oh. Welcome to Kitty Snuggle Interlude. Yeah, Molly's my special baby because when we first got her and Doodles, she was very sick. Oh, look at that. We have fleas. Oh, I know somebody that's going to get a flea treatment. Yeah. Uh-oh. I talked about her fleas. Oh no, I talked about her fleas. She has unwanted hitchhikers, and I discussed them. Ugh, I'm a terrible mommy. Oh, what do I have? What do I have? Whoop! You dropped it. Here, kitty snacks. Oh, and here comes Doodles. He won't be left out of the kitty snacks. Doodles says, "Wait, are we handing out kitty snacks?" Yeah, she was very sick when we first got her. She had an upper respiratory infection, plus she had feline conjunctivitis, and so and conjunctivitis, it's not usually that bad a problem for older cats, but she was 3 weeks old, and when they're that young, it can actually be fatal if it goes untreated long enough. And she was in very, very, very trashy shape. She was very sick. And so for the first week and a half that we had her, I was cleaning her face every 3 hours, putting medicine in her eyes and giving her medicine. And so because of that, she's very, very, very bonded to me. It's like she does not like it when I'm gone for quote unquote too long. She does not like that. If I go to work and I oh, the other day, I was at work literally all day from like 8 in the morning until like 10 at night, and she was not happy. And I came home to yarn dragged all over the house because mommy did not come home when Kitty expected her to. So, yeah, when you have fuzzy children, especially ones that you've raised from uh, needing milk. Oh, you should see my what my dogs do to me. They do perform work, but they run the house. Molly, she's definitely the leader of the furries in the house. She's the head of the fuzzy contingent. She reminds me when it's time to feed everybody, even though I know what time it is and I know when they need to be fed. She thinks that I forget, and I might forget to feed her, and that would be the worst tragedy ever because she's missed so many meals. She just looked so skinny, didn't she? Doodles, he's a lot less picky about when we get fed or if we're going to get fed. He knows I'll feed him. He knows that everything's going to be okay, and I'm not going to forget to feed him. Molly, she wants to be sure. What's up, my doodle? Hey, my doodle. Come here, buddy. Come on, buddy. I got your spot over here for you. Hey, doodle. Come here. I got your spot over here. Oh, are we not feeling that social today? You don't want to be an internet cat today, doodle? No? Okay. He does not feel like socializing with the internets. That's okay. He's my shy guy anyway. Molly is the super social one. Uh, but yeah, I love them so much. They were supposed to be fosters. Oh, he did decide to come and say hello. He is not a tiny little chunk. Not at all. There's a lot of cat here. He's about 17 pounds worth of cat, and he is not a chebo. That's a lot of that is bone muscle. Yeah, bone and muscle and brain cells. We got the brain cells. Yeah, we're smarty. I love this precious little face. I love this precious face. Look at that precious face. Oh, that's such a precious little face. And he does the quietest little purrs. Mm, mm. I'm not his favorite human. I'm the human that does the food. He prefers my husband for everything else. I mean, he will come to me for the loves, but if Colby's here, then yeah, he will prefer Colby unless he wants to be fed, and then he's all about me. Oh, I love my fuzzies. Um, but yeah, it's like okay. And then my brain has gone squirrel. Where did my thoughts go? They ran away. They did. They ran away. They have fucked off into the forever, as Reese would say. Um, Something that's common with us autistic folk also is we tend to pal around with the animals more than we pal around with the peoples, because animals, they don't expect as much from me as other humans do. I can spend half an hour snuggling with him and giving him the scratches and whatever, and he really doesn't matter what else I did that day, as long as I gave him the scratches and I gave him the foods, and we spent time together. We had a little snuggle nap time together. That is all good for him. He doesn't care. He doesn't care. Did I brush my hair today? Not so much. Am I wearing yesterday's clothes? Maybe, but he doesn't care. He might care if I'm a little bit too stinky, but that's easily fixed, and he can let me know about that. And but otherwise, he doesn't care. Neither does Jane. Neither does Crypto. Neither does Molly. They care if I am loving on them and feeding them and doing what they want me and need me to do. That's what they care about. It's like, oh, I fell on my face today. That's okay. I'll snuggle with you until you feel better. It's like that was a lot of what Doodles did when I was in the early stages of recovering from squishing that vertebrae in my back, because I spent about a week and a half in bed. And so he hung out with me and chilled out with me on the bed in the back room, and we watched shows on my laptop together. Yeah, he is a big TV watcher. Um, he really likes On Patrol Live and the other shows that have people rescuing other people or people rescuing animals, as long as the animals are not like in super bad shape. He gets sad if the animals are sad. Um, and play a video of kittens mewing. Oh, that's how you get him and Molly to come to you as fast as they possibly can, because they hear those baby kitties on whatever device you're using, and they'll come right up to you and they'll be purring and trying to soothe the babies and everything. It's like, if I ever decided to foster other animals, no, babe, I'm not going to foster more animals, because I know how we got saddled with Molly and Doodles, because I couldn't give them up. Yeah, but I wouldn't change a thing about the Molly and the Doodles. And I wouldn't change a thing about having crypto and how crypto became part of our lives. And I wouldn't change a thing about my Ember, who I miss so freaking much. She was my best good girl. And learning how to live without her has been just so horrible. And so heartbreaking. But I've got Jane to help me through that, and she's doing the best job she can do. I mean, she's not Ember, but she will never be Ember. She she's not Ember. Hello, Doodles. Oh, did you hear Mama getting sad? You had to come check. It's like, well, Mama said I gotta fix. Make Mama love on me. Make Mama give me the loveses and the snuggies. Oh, I found a doodle tail and a doodle foot. Oh, such a good little cat. Even though he's not little at all. Oh, and something people don't understand sometimes is I call Doodles a tuxedo cat. He is, because he's got the patterning. People are like, oh, he can't be a tuxedo cat because he's not black and white. Uh, it doesn't matter if they're black and white. If they have the white little feet and the tuxedo vest, and sometimes the white socks on the back feet. Of course, he doesn't just have white socks on his back feet. He's got full on pantaloons on his back end. Yeah. His whole back legs are white. Yes. And that's a tuxedo cat. Because tuxies aren't a breed, they're a coat pattern. Yeah. And that's my tuxie PSA for today. Because he's my handsome boy. And I love him. Handsome kitty. Oh, he good. He do the guan-guans. Yeah, Ember helped me raise Doodles and Molly. So they have some non-cat like behaviors. And one of the things that they picked up from her is when they're super happy, like the happiest that they can be, they don't purr, they grunt. And he was, when I was scratching his head just now, he was giving me the grunt grunts, which means I was doing a good job scratching that skull. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, happy kitty. Meanwhile, Molly is off doing Molly things. I'm sorry that your puppy went blind. That sucks. Although the interesting thing about blind dogs, actually blind animals, is they learn how to adapt to that a lot faster than most people do. Because it just becomes okay. This is now a thing, and so they'll just learn to work around it as long as you don't uh, do any serious changing around of where the furniture is. She'll be just fine. She still likes to listen to Law and Order with you. That's cool. Yeah, dealing with self harm, that's some hard stuff. I've had my own battles with that. Um, I've had some battles with I've had some battles with suicide and suicidal ideation. I've never attempted it, but there have been a few times where it's been seriously tempting. It's been seriously tempting more than once, but like not recently. Not actually, really not since I met Colby. No, it's been about 12, 13 years now. Um, but yeah, I haven't had any. Okay, definitely gonna need the Benadryl later. Um, yeah, but I haven't had any real brushes with that in recent times, except for when, well, there's this wonderful thing that if you're female, you can have issues with. Everybody knows about PMS. Well, PMS has a bigger, uglier, meaner big sister. It's called PMDD. And that's all of the things that PMS can be multiplied. And one of the joyous offshoots of PMDD is you can have, uh, oh, bipolar plus autism. Oh, yikes. One or the other is hard enough all by itself, but add put them together. Yikes. That is deep and profound uckies. Um, but yeah, you add suicidal ideation to the picture, and so you spend half of your cycle with your brain presenting different ways to off yourself. And bear in mind that I have absolutely no desire to follow through with any of the scenarios or ideas that my brain presents with me presents me with. But yeah, mm, it's not fun. And actually, when when I started dealing with that, I started. That's actually when I went back on Lexapro, because I've had good experiences with Lexapro in the past, and I'm currently also still having good experiences with Lexapro. So it's like all those Scientology folks. Oh yeah, psych drugs are bad. Psych drugs are dangerous. I'd be more dangerous without it. Way more dangerous. Um, and actually, mostly what I love about it is it makes those not so wonderful ideas go away. And it's like, yeah, no, I'm not gonna slack off with it because I don't want to think about those things and I don't want those ideas in my brain because I have no desire to follow through with them and I have no desire to have anything to do with that because, well, I have. Ooh, she just is a. Ugh, she's just got some deep, profound struggles there. It's like one of those conditions all by itself. It's a struggle, but you pile them all on top of each other. I mean, ADHD and autism together, it's interesting, but it's not that bad. But you add bipolarism into that, and yikes. I know a little bit more about bipolarism than I'd like to because I'm related to a bipolar who regularly goes off his meds when he wants attention. He's also a pathological liar, and he has a photographic memory. That's fun. I take my meds for myself, and also I've been told that I'm much easier to get along with on my meds than off. So everyone, including me, likes me better medicated. And the Scientologist that thinks the psych meds are bad can go fuck themselves into the forever because yeah, no, 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 no. It's like I will snuggle up with my Lexapro, with my Lexapro and my Tramadol and my whole big med bag of goodies here. Let's see. We have my emergency anxiety med. Yes, I am aware that that is actually a beta blocker. And meds that keep me so that everybody likes me, including me. It's like, and oh, yes, wonderful tramadol that keeps my body from making me hate myself. And then because I have cough variant asthma, we also have generic Teflon pearls. And that's my bag of wonderfulness that keeps me going through the universe and keeps me from wanting to do damage to other people or myself. Yeah, I know that propanol is a beta blocker, but what it does is it drops my blood pressure, which is one of the things that sparks off an anxiety attack for me. Well, it throws it into a full anxiety attack, and it can also trigger uh, if I'm starting to have a meltdown and I start to feel my blood pressure spike, it will actually throw me into a deeper meltdown. So if I take that when I first start to feel the my blood pressure spike, it will keep it from being as bad as it could be. And I only use that if the Lexapro is not covering what it is that is going on. And it's not very often. I think the last time, when was the last time I had that? I don't even know. Oh yeah, back in February. I haven't filled that since February, and I've still got most of the bottle. So I really don't take it that often. It's just when things are too much and the stimming is not getting it done, and I'm about to go off into the land of people don't want to be around me, including me. And if you don't want to be around yourself, that's kind of a problem. You really don't. You can't escape yourself. You can try, but that's not really going to work out very well. Really, Doodles? Doodles is back. Apparently, he's concerned about me. Um, yeah, my younger sister does Xanax. It helps a lot with her anxiety, but she also deals with MS, and that is an evil fucking thing. I hate that she has to deal with all that shit. Um, but she's been on Xanax for years because she's dealt with anxiety for years and years. Um, but also undiagnosed autistic. That's pretty much where that is, and she's also heavy duty OCD, like really big time. She's big germaphobe. She does not like germies at all. Your workers can tell when you've when you've been missing your meds. That's hardcore right there. It's like, yeah, I've got some pretty deep dark humor, because that sometimes that's the only way to cope, and people don't understand that, and it's like, well, you don't understand because you've never been there. Oh, I didn't know that amygdala could help with seizures and anxiety. That's interesting. Yeah, it's like I'm learning stuff, you're learning stuff. That's actually kind of what this is supposed to be about is you learning, me learning, and because I love to learn. I suck at learning the traditional way because you look at my grades from when I was in high school and even some of my college years, uh, the stuff that I was into, I did really good at. The stuff that I was not into, I either did not do very good at, like near failing, or oh, Xanax. Okay. Okie dokie. Yeah, my client takes lamigdal, among other things, to help control his epilepsy. Yeah, he takes lamigdal for his epilepsy. Um, one of several things that he takes. He also take because his seizures are so hard to control. He takes on top of um, like 4 pills. He also takes CBD for seizures. Epidiolex, I think it's called. Um, and actually, when we added the CBD for the seizure patients, um, he also gained a lot of cognitive function, and he gained more cognitive function, and he became more functional as a person. And he also gained some new words, which people think nonverbal means don't talk at all. He With him, he does not use language in the traditional fashion. Like he'll say things like hello and goodbye and bye bye and hi and come on, no and stop, and those no and stop. That's always in context, and that's always in the traditional usage. But no can mean a couple of different things for him, because he can no, and that's I am upset or disappointed by what is going on because it is not what I expected, or I just don't like it, versus no, no. And that is, you're pissing me off. You need to fucking stop it now or else. And then if you ignore that, then we go to stop. And then if you don't stop after he starts telling you to stop, then unfortunate things will occur, and that's physical violence, like biting and pinching and stuff like that. But also you see that stuff in little kids that don't really have the language skills, because well, if you're doing something I don't want, or if you have something I want, which is faster, which is easier, say hey I want that, or hey stop that, or just bite the fucker. which is going to be more effective. Well, just straight up fucking biting them. And that's pretty much where he goes, well, you're not listening to me, so here we go. Chomp chomp. It's like, and people, a lot of people, especially folks that have not dealt with a lot of young children, they don't really understand that. And because I have a background dealing with young children, I understand why my client goes there when he does. It's like, well, I've used the words I have. You're not paying attention to the words I have, plus all of the nonverbal indicators that I'm giving you. I want you to stop. You're not stopping. Okay, I'm going to make you stop. And well, it's pretty much from there. It's pretty much a given because I mean, think about it. If you wanted somebody to stop doing something to you, you didn't have any other way of telling them, what would you do? How would you handle it? I'm pretty sure I'd chomp down on somebody that was pissing me off and wasn't paying attention and wasn't listening to me. Yeah, I probably would. It's like I'm not even going to make bones about that. So I totally understand where he's coming from with that. Um, well, I he's 19 and he's always going to need somebody to help him out. He's always going to need somebody like me, some kind of assistance, because he doesn't have the verbal capacity to tell people what he wants. He's got a communication app on his tablet, but he really doesn't use it. Um, and we've worked with him on it. He knows how it works. He knows how to use it. He just chooses not to. And so he's got limited communication skills. So it has to be somebody who knows him, knows how to speak his language because he does talk. He just mostly speaks non-verbally. He mostly does not use a lot of words. I mean, hello, that's I'm glad to see you, or something's going on that I'm enjoying, or yes, let's continue doing this. Let's do more of this. And that's also come on. He wants you to do more of that. He wants you to keep going. He doesn't want you to stop, or he wants you to do it faster. Bye bye. I want to go. I want you to go away, or I don't like this. Let's change what's going on here. And that's pretty much the limit of what words he'll say to us. Although after we started the CBD, he did gain a new word, which is okay. And that wasn't even very long ago. That was only like a couple of years ago that he got that new word, and it only happened after like 6 months of him being on the CBD for the epilepsy. So, I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that it was the CBD that helped him get this new word. Yeah, that usually is the case. You For stuff like that. That's from what I've seen. Pardon me. Cat fur made my nose itch. Uh, but yeah, that's a lot of what I've seen and what I've heard is for the mental health stuff. You have to end up on like actual mental health assistance. You have to, if you're also on the spectrum or ADHD or whatever, it has to be both sides for you to end up over there. Oh, I'm sorry that the CBD for epilepsy did not help you. That kind of sucks, because it helped him a lot, and we were able, before he started on the CBD, he was on like 6 different meds, and we were able to completely stop 2 of the meds after he went on the CBD. We were able to cut out 2 of them, so that he's only on 4 pills and the CBD, and we're trying to get him down to where he's only on, like, low doses of at least 2 of them, because that one of the problems, with being on high dose meds, because his seizures are so hard to treat, one of the problems is it's starting to affect his liver, and that, not so good. Um, nah, I don't like him having to take all the pills either. I mean, the way that we give him his pills, we crush them and we mix them with applesauce. But, that's still what he takes is still a lot of meds for one person to be taking twice a day. It's just not ideal, but we haven't found anything that works better that, keeps his seizures down to a reasonable level. Uh, this time of year, even on all of the meds, he has, he has some like low level activity first thing in the morning, or he has one a day because of the changing, uh the weather changes and everything. It sparks more seizures for him, but like in the middle of winter, in the middle of summer, he drops to almost no seizures. uh but anytime we try to taper him off of one of his meds, it'll spark back up. So it's like, what do you do? It's like we hate it. Pardon me. We hate it for him, but what else can we do? It's like I the reason why, let's see. I think I just refilled my tramadol not so long ago, but my last bottle lasted me almost a year. So it's like a 30-day supply of tramadol can last me almost a year, sometimes longer, depending on what the weather's done that year and what my pain level's been at and how much I've been doing, or if I've been overdoing it. And that's actually one of the things that Jane helps me with, and that Ember helped me with for 13 years, is making sure that I am aware of what I am doing to myself. Because with my pain level, I've learned to tune it out just to be able to function in this world, just to be a halfway functional human. I've had to learn to tune it out. And because I got really, really good at that, I learned to tune it out too well, and sometimes I just can't. What is Toradol? Is that like cortisone shots? Because I've done cortisone shots and those didn't help. It did not do a damn thing for me, and all I did was lose a day of work. Although I did get to use some really cool drugs while I was, what when they took me in to give me the cortisone shot, but that if I was into that kind of stuff, I would have loved it, but I not so much. So that was kind of wasted on me as well. Although I will say, I don't get what the big deal with the interest in abusing fentanyl is, because I got 30 seconds of trippy shit and then it was over and I wasn't hurting anymore. Ouch. How did you break your leg in 5 places, lady? Super yikes. Oh, ibuprofen and me, we're good buddies. That's what I use instead of my tramadol a lot of the time. Um, I like my ibuprofen. I'll have to look that up. Let's favorite that so I can find it later. Um, that's interesting. I'll have to look into that. Um, so do they inject it around where your nerve is, or how does that work? I think I'm gonna play around with music. Where is the music? Pardon me, I'm just dinking around with stuff, trying to. Ouch! You had a dog run into you? Yikes! Yeah, I've learned a lot more about hospice in the last few years because I've had more chance to encounter it. My husband's family has unfortunately lost a few of their older members in the last couple of years, and so we've had more truck with hospice. And I mean that is just a lovely thing that can be offered to people that are on their way out. I mean, and it's not just helping the patient themselves, it's helping their family and helping them understand what's going on and what can be expected, like different changes and stuff that happens with the loved one's body. And actually it wasn't until I started researching hospice stuff, because my passing fancy with researching things, and I will research something to the end of the world until I run out of things to research about it. That's actually how I came across discovering that I was on the autism spectrum. Have not formally been diagnosed, don't really see a point in getting officially diagnosed, uh, because, I mean, there's no services in the US for adult autistics that are low support needs. That there's really not any support for people like me. Um, so I don't really see a point other than helping increase the number of diagnosed females that are being counted. Other than that, it's like, what's the point? Why waste $1,000 or more to pursue that? I don't really see a point. And I know there are people in the autism community that are like, well, yeah, you should go ahead and get diagnosed anyway, and yada, yada, yada. And I was like, I'm just like, if I was in the UK or someplace that there is support for low support needs autistics, especially 45-year-old low support needs autistics, I would totally pursue that. But I mean, it's not going to do me a whole lot of good. I've had enough of uh, the diagnosis done that would, as far as what can help me academically with my other, like it, continuing my education and whatever. I've done that diagnosis, but I mean, a full on autism diagnosis at my age, I don't really see a point. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I get that, and uh, nobody should have to pass away without somebody that cares about them around. And I know that happens for a lot of elderly people. I know that happens for people with some severe mental health diagnosis, because family can get kind of worn out with having to deal with that day in day out, especially if it's like some kind of severe schizophrenia or bipolar that won't stay on their meds or something like that. Yeah, I understand about that. It's like one of my friends. I've got I know how many different, I know probably about a dozen bipolars, and most of them have been med non-compliant at some point or other. Uh, some of them were med non-compliant because they didn't think they needed to stay compliant. Yeah, caregiver burnout is a big thing. We kind of got that way with my dad, even though he wasn't really dealing with like a lot of mental health stuff, but he was just very ill at the end of his life, and he needed a lot of extra attention, and he wouldn't let us bring in somebody from the outside. So it was all us taking care of him, mostly me and my mom. And I was there mostly to give her a break. Like, there were times that she just needed to get out of the house. There were times that she needed to go grocery shopping. Uh, and I just was like, okay, I know how to deal with him. I know what he needs. Mostly, all we had to do for him was make sure that he had something to eat. And if he went off the rails with his diabetes, check his blood sugar and then call the paramedics. And that was pretty much the limit to what we did. And he was a fall risk, so we minded him about that. I mean, the last 5 years of his life, we lived in one house that was one story plus a basement with an attic, and the basement was walkout. He got to the point within the last 5 years of his life that he couldn't go up to the main floor of the house anymore. He was too much of a fall risk, and so we had to just manage him downstairs in his office, and that's where that got to be where he slept and where he ate, and where he lived most of his life was downstairs in the walkout basement, because it wasn't safe for him to come upstairs, and it wasn't safe for him to even go in and out of the front door because there were steps going up to the front door. So it was like, what do you do? And so he spent most of his time going in and out of the walkout, the door for the walkout basement, and just hanging out under the deck if he wasn't inside. And um, there were times where it wasn't even really terribly safe for him to do that. And so it's like, well, when they won't let you do what is the best thing for them, and you're having to do the best you can with what you've got. And I mean, it was hard stuff. And I think if I hadn't been there, and it had been just mom, then she would not have done as well. I mean, she still lives with having to make the decisions that she had to make the last couple of months of his life because he was very, very, very sick, like hospitalized, and we couldn't take him home. And because he needed too much care, and we were doing everything we could for him. And it wasn't until the last day that he was alive that we we didn't even understand up until that last day that there was no treatment at all ever that was going to be enough to get him out of the hospital and to him able to live on his get him able to live outside of a hospital. We didn't know that until that day, and then at that point it was, what do you do? We're asking him to do something that is not fair, and if it was me, I would not want. And I know he didn't want it because my dad was the most private person ever. And at the end, every he had strangers having to do everything for him. And he hated that. And we knew it, even though he couldn't talk to us because he was trached. He couldn't talk to us. He was trached and he was on a CPAP, and but we could tell. We could tell he hated it. And so at that point when we realized nothing could be done, we made the right choice, because asking that man to live the rest of however long like that, not okay. We couldn't do it. Yeah, we did the best with what we had, with what we knew and what the doctors knew and what the doctors could figure out. We used everything we had, and it just wasn't enough, and it was never going to be. And at that point, you just have to do what's fair. And so we did what was fair, even though we didn't want to. But that's the choice that you have to make when you're at that point of things. And this is stuff that doesn't get talked about because people are embarrassed. People think that this should be kept private and kept quiet. And we need to get this out there that this happens and you find yourself in that place. And what do you do? Do you keep them around until their whole body gives out? Do you force them to live that life where everybody is doing everything, even if they don't want that? What do you do? It's like, that's not fair. That's not kind. That's not okay. Especially with somebody that is as private and independent as my father was. And we just we had to. And it broke our hearts to do it. But at that point, it was about him and what was fair to him. And I think like what Reese says about her husband that passed away, Fred. My dad's still here. He's still here, and he still helps me, and he still protects me. Firmly believe that him and Ember helped me find Jane, because there's no way I would have found a new dog as quickly as I did. And there's no way that she would have been absolutely exactly what I needed. Absolutely no way. Not when I was just I was just looking. I wasn't even like really try. I wasn't seriously looking. I was just dinking around seeing what was out there. And I wasn't really seeing anything that was kind of what I wanted or kind of what I needed. And then one day I just got this wild hair to check a local page that uh, one of the dog parks has for friends of that dog park, and they occasionally have posts of people that are looking to rehome animals, and I'd rather keep a dog from going into a shelter than rescue one from a shelter. If I can help an animal avoid that, I will do that. But I will never buy a dog. I will always rescue because a lot of really sweet animals go into shelters and never leave. And actually, the first dog that I rescued as an adult, if he'd gone into a shelter the way that he was when I rescued him, being the size that he was and the level of fear that he was experiencing towards everything, a 65, 70-pound dog going into a shelter, terrified of the universe, that dog's not going to walk back out. Not through either way. Not through either entrance, front or back. They're not going to walk out. They're just going to walk in and get wheeled out. And that's the way it is. And I didn't want that for him. And I knew that that's where that would go for him. So I took him and I started trying to teach him that the world wasn't evil. And then by rescuing him, he rescued my dad, and my dad was around for probably about five or so years longer than he would have been otherwise, because my dog saved my dad. Yeah, actually, the thing about rescued animals is they know they've been rescued. They know you saved them, and they are eternally grateful for that. I don't think Jane realizes that she was rescued because she didn't her life was not terribly bad before I got her, and it's really, really not bad now. So, I don't think she understands what that's like, but I didn't want her to find out. So that's why I would rather save a dog from going into a shelter than pick one up out of a shelter. But I would absolutely pick one up out of a shelter if that was my choice, because I've seen how those animals live, and a lot of them, especially the more sensitive ones, they don't last because they can't handle that shelter life, being in all of that noise and everything. They just can't cope. And what people miss a lot of the time about um well, what I'm trying to educate people about with service dogs especially is, okay, if you need a service dog, make sure you have one that is highly intelligent and is highly interested in people and can adapt on a dime. Uh, like Jane, she knows and she can tell when I need help, and she will go out of her way to figure out how to help me. Even if it's not something that I've taught her how to do, she will figure it out because I've taught her enough that she's able. Yeah. Yeah, the original little Davy of the face navy that you had, he kind of met with a sad pardon me. Time to use my inhaler is something less than a time to use the inhaler for the intended purpose. Bear with. Yeah. Jane can tell when I'm about to have an asthma attack. She picks up on when my my blood sugar is spiking or tanking. She picks up on when my pain level is spiking. Um, and then she also helps me with my mobility as far as when I'm walking. Thank you. A plus. All right, I'll take that. I know a lot of people don't know how to properly use it. Uh, I've actually taught a few people how to properly use an inhaler because my mom needed to go on an inhaler a year and a half ago. She was having a bad case of bronchitis. And yeah, she needed an inhaler, but she'd never used one before. She Two of her kids use them, but she's never had to use one, so she didn't know what to do. So I was like, okay, yeah, all right, inhaler 101, here we go, mom. It's like I've been on inhalers, rescue inhalers off and on since I was like 30. No, no, actually, it was about 25 or so. When I first had to start using inhalers, and I was just borderline asthmatic at that time. I It would be just something that I would need if I got a bad case of bronchitis or a bad respiratory infection of some kind that would trigger me to go into asthma attacks, and I would need it. So my doctors would just automatically prescribe me an inhaler to go with my antibiotics. And also, since I was about 30 or so, I've needed prednisone anytime that I have um, upper respiratory infections or just respiratory infections in general. But the reason why it's cough variant asthma for me is my primary symptom, especially when I'm triggered, is coughing. I don't necessarily always wheeze, but yeah, I think after we're done here, I'm going to be doing the nebulizer treatment. Woo! Mr. Nebulizer. He's my friend. I love Mr. Nebulizer. He allows me to breathe, and he makes my lungs behave. I like my nebulizer. I, I I don't necessarily like having to do the breathing treatments because they're fucking boring as hell. But I like the being able to breathe. It's like also when I've got sinus infections, I do not enjoy doing the sinus flush, but I do enjoy being able to breathe properly afterwards. So it's like, yeah, breathing treatment tastes like crap, but it helps. And so, yeah, so we happy along and do what we gotta do. Uh, but yeah, I. So you feel my pain. You understand. Yeah, I think being a ADHD, or you probably understand the boringness of the thing way better than most people do, because it's like when you're doing a breathing treatment, you just sit there and you breathe as deep as you can to bring that stuff as far into your lungs as you can to open up as much of it as you can. And it's like, that's just boring. I have to turn it into a game to make it like halfway bearable. I pretend that I'm doing singing breathing exercises. It's like, yeah, well, you do what you got to do. But I'm not going to show off the old voice because yeah, that will sound like super trash right now because I can't even breathe properly enough to sound okay when I'm talking. It's like my voice is like super gravelly right now. I can tell. Um, and I kind of knew when I got back from taking the dogs to the dog park that I was going to need to do a breathing treatment tonight. I think I'm gonna have to tell my mom that I need some more of my Zyrtec because I ran out the other day. That's probably about half of my problem. Uh, but welcome to life. Uh, all right, I think I'm gonna round this off now because I've got to go get the dogs from my mom's house and fix supper and all that good stuff because my husband's gonna be off work here in about 15 minutes. Plus, plus we need to make the breathing good. So, and I don't really want to bore everybody with 15 minutes of breathing treatment. So, and we've been at this for over 2 hours now. So, I think I'm going to end this off and say see you next week. And also be watching for maybe uh, maybe a chronic pain confessional type stream somewhere in the middle of the week. um, just to give my chronic pain folks their own personal sounding board. Um, because I've seen on Reese's page that there are a bunch of us that are living life with the chronic pains and the chronic conditions. I think I might see if Miss Marilyn wants to join in. Because she said something about fibromyalgia and she's got some interesting theories about chronic pain as it relates to chronic uh, chronic post traumatic stress and fibromyalgia and stuff like that. So yeah, I think that's probably what I'm going to look into. Marilyn, if you're watching, hey, what do you think? Let's hook up. And I will see y'all next week. Bye. And those folks that are watching in the replay crew and anybody else, uh, leave me comments, questions. If I get questions or comments that I think are worth responding back to in the replay comments, I will absolutely address them next week. And toodaloo. And Molly says bye. Well, actually, she's telling me to shut up because she wants to go back to sleep. So I will see y'all next week. Bye bye.